Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 603. Hopefully, you guys have had a great night. I know I have. I've got a great guest for us this evening. I've got Jake from Manifest Gardens. How you doing, my friend? You want to tell us how you're doing and where we can find you?
Doing very well, my friend. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram at manifest.gardens. We're just a group of small batch growers pushing the craft culture out here in New England. So you can find me right on my Instagram there. If anyone wants to contact me there, that's usually the best place. But I'm just sparking up a blunt right now. Anything you want me to start with, Eagle?
What's in that blunt? Let's start there.
So I'm smoking on some Boscotti from Soulfire Gardens. This is actually one of my favorite genetics that we just did a hunt of. We try to do as many flavors as we can to find our keepers. So the Boscotti is from Soulfire. It's a Don Mega times Boscotti with some of the most amazing bag appeal I've seen out of one of our genetics here that we carry. So that's a big focus of ours too. It's just always pushing for new school strains and trying to keep these kids fed with what they really like, I guess is what I would say. The new school bags is kind of our focus. The exotics, if you will.
Right. But that biscotti is surefire, that's for sure. So yeah, am I kind of hearing it correct that do you guys pheno hunt each selection there? So you start from seed and pheno hunt each one?
We actually work close with this guy called Two Friend Genetics, and he does all the pheno hunting, and then he'll give us his keepers, and then we'll go through all the keepers and kind of establish what we want to keep running and keep in the nursery from there. So we're blessed to work with people like that who do take the pheno hunt off our hands, and we just kind of go cut after cut after cut and just try to find the best cuts that will stay around in our stable. And we're big on feedback too from people, so we're always asking like, hey, which ones do you guys want to see more of? Which do you want to see stay around for a while? And I feel like that's really helped engage with the consumer on a basis where we can keep them happy and have a large array of variety for them to choose from. Because I notice what someone likes, another person may not very often.
Very true, and a very wise business plan, if I may say.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. But we always try to put the customer first. That's our thing here, I suppose. But yeah, smoking on some.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to get.
Just smoking on some Boscotti. That's it. But go ahead, my brother.
So, when did you initially come across the plant? When did first time you used or seen the plant for the very first time?
I probably started smoking around 14, 15 years old. And the first plant I came across, I was probably like 18 or 19. I started seeing clones go around a little bit from the community in our area. And then when I was about 19 years old, I was just pushing. That was always kind of my thing. And we put up two plants in a shed one summer. I had an OG cheese weed I had bought, and it was seeded out. And we had popped like 4 or 5 OG cheese seeds. We had 3 females and 2 males. And we pulled the males and we grew 3 of them in a 4x4 shed with 2 Amazon lights. And we got a QP off it going into college, and we were like so hyped. We were like, oh, this is awesome. And like we drove 2 hours back and forth just for this QP all summer to water these plants. And it was just a good experience. So starting there like really kind of humbled me with the plant, where it's like I thought I was going to get a lot more than I did out of it, but it made me really fall in love with the process and the dedication to go every day and water these plants, like, is when I really started to fall in love with the plant. And then after that, we scaled up into an attic. We insulated this attic, put some plants in it. It was like on a roof line. And after that one, we just started doing garden after garden after garden, and kind of just going with the flow and learn the process. And then just recently, we have built a team a little bigger, and more people are taking responsibilities, and it's been working really well.
Right on. That's a nice little progression there. So when you first started out with actually smoking, do you remember what strains you had, what you come across?
So
Tell
I
me
remember
a little bit about that.
I remember some of the first like really terpy weed that I got was some sour tangy back in the day that was coming around. And then I'm close to New York too, so the sour diesel is very prominent. So I think the sour tangy and the sour diesel were some of the first like better terpene profiles that I really noticed where it hit me, and it was like, whoa, there's more to this, you know? Because a lot of people just think weed is weed. They don't understand that you can have every flavor under the sun if you look hard enough. So the sour diesel and the sour tangy, and I'm only 24 years old, so I don't have legend stories of these older strains, which I wish I got to taste, you know. But and then the wedding cake started to really come around too, and that was like one of my favorites when it first started coming around.
You know,
but how about you? What about you? What was some of the first exotics or great weed that you saw?
For when the first stuff I really smoked, you know, are really the good stuff was the pine, just the straight up, you know, pine, which I'm guessing nowadays was probably some Northern Lights or something like that. But that shit was, I remember we could fucking smoke a joint between 6 of us, and it was that super laughy weed. And man, I have been chasing whatever that was to this day, to be honest with you. So, man, yeah, I miss that stuff. I wish I could. Man, I love that laughy stuff.
Pine. I haven't seen much pine, honestly. I've seen a lot of the super silver haze, like the super lemon haze, is some of the older school stuff I've smoked as well too.
Be honest with you, so man. Yeah, I miss that stuff. There we go.
That stuff is very uplifting, very nice, very medicinal. But also for Manifest Gardens, also right now we're also pushing an apparel line and a bunch of merch and stuff too. So that's kind of been new for us, trying to involve the culture within. Like, we just did a duffel bag drop, a backpack drop, t-shirts, sweatshirts, a bunch of different hats. We're doing grinders, rolling trays, just like trying to just push the culture more too, and just be in that scene apart from just the cannabis product, you know.
So, you know, you kind of threw out the age there, and I did kind of know you were a little on the younger side, no offense there, but you know, these days I tend not to even ask or really make too much of that shit, to be honest with you. Things have changed a lot, you know what I mean, from the times I started growing and shit like that. So to say that the skill set or the knowledge isn't there is just kind of foolish, you know what I mean? It's quite, some of these new growers are fucking killing it, you know what I mean? They've had all the tools of the trade, all the knowledge from day one, and they've just kind of taken it and ran with it. So, you know, the fact for I see the younger growers these days doesn't necessarily, you know, make me scoff at, you know, the number of years or question the skill set, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I appreciate it. You know what I mean? I wish I had gotten it started as early on as a lot of these newer growers. So cheers to you for, you know, taking off with it as early as you can.
Thank you for that. And cheers to everyone for paving the way for us new growers to have this abundance of information at our fingertips. I think that's what's really caught me up to the speed in the time I've been growing is just studying it and having access to really good people like yourself who are always answering questions in the community and helping us new growers get ahead faster and faster and push the new generation. I think that's really what we're all about is just pushing the new school weed and pushing for the next big thing, you know, the next big genetics and just a big craft brand, I guess, is our focus.
So has it always been, would you say, recreational for you, or at some point did you kind of notice the medical use of cannabis right away, or is it still right? You know, it's no shame to admit that these days. I mean, it floats both ways in most states.
For me personally, I'm such a go type of person that I think it kind of helps me just take a step back and observe everything. It makes me very observant. So I would say I would say I use it for both medicinal and recreational, but I think it allows me to take an outside look of what I want to achieve or what I have going on in my life and really kind of bring that together and hone it in. And that's why I named my company Manifest Gardens, because we're all about executing our vision and manifesting what we believe in and trying to take a dream and make it a reality type of business. That's what we're all about here. Well, I would say I use it more recreationally than medicinally.
Nothing wrong with that. Not at all, by the way. And I gotta tell you, the name, you guys' name, was one of the one of the drawing factors of catching my eye, to be honest with you. I am most definitely a person that believes in manifestation. And so that one was an easy one. I was like, oh, I like this. You know what I mean? I dig it. You can, you know, basically whatever you create your mind, set your mind to. If you're willing to put it to paper and you're willing to like sit down and envision the dream and, you know, put a little passion behind it, I really believe you can get whatever you want to get out of life, to be honest with you.
Yeah, a little elbow grease goes a long way, and I'm a firm believer in really asking for what you want, and it will come. You know, ask the universe or whatever you believe in what you really want to achieve, and if you set out on that goal and find like-minded people, you can achieve anything. So I'm blessed with a great team. I've surrounded myself with amazing people who are better than me in some ways, you know. So it's like once we kind of got our team together and the tight knitness of that, everything started kind of clicking and executing more efficiently on our business side of things.
Now, when you say team, how many people is your team?
There's like 3 or 4 of us, small, very small team, and we all do it all together from pulling leaves to trimming to getting the drops out to taking clones to watering the plants. You know, I've kind of taught them how to do everything, and we've written our own SOPs for them, and just teaching it down has kind of helped take the workload off my hands too, so I can go and do more, which I'm very thankful for.
Nice. And again, I got to give you a little bit of a props there. Knowing when to delegate chores to free yourself up for other tasks is another great leadership skill or quality, to be honest with you. And again, I can honestly say that is something that I necessarily didn't even develop till later in life. You know what I mean? I wish again, that was something. I've always been that hard-headed guy to where I was afraid to let other people step in because quality may sway or shit may not be get done or whatever. But in a lot of times, man, you have to have some trust in the team and delegate some responsibilities. So like I said, so you can free yourself up, for other important shit, other endeavors. So yeah, shout out to you for figuring that shit out early on, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I like to take on a lot more than I can do sometimes. So it's a blessing to have them, and you know, each member fits a role better than the other. So it's kind of up to me to kind of guide them and talk them through at where they fit best. So I have, if you guys go on Instagram too, I have my buddy who works for me. His name is manifest.farmer. So if you follow him too, you can see him in the garden every day with me, and that's kind of been my right hand man in the garden per se. So he's killing it now with me, and just we work very well together. And then I have two other homies who help me around the clock whenever I call them. So very blessed with them. And I had that
Right
fear
on.
thing as well, bringing people in, because it's a lot of intellectual property that us growers have, and it's a lot of risk we take on, and just everything else that goes on with it. So when I got over that fear, when I found the right people that fit the right situations, I guess I just had to go with it and embrace it.
Napoleon Hill, who is like an inspirational speaker, what he calls that is a mastermind circle. Basically, you take a look at yourself and kind of see your flaws, you know what I mean, your weaknesses, and fill them spots with people where them are their strengths, you know what I mean, and then work forward towards a common purpose. And it's almost a key to every success, man. So again, good job, man. Good job.
Is that saying? It's like, find your 10 worst qualities and find 10 people who are great at that. That's the saying that relates back to me. Yep. That's awesome. But go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask you basically what was, you can tell me a little bit about that beginning setup, but let's go in a little bit deeper. What kind of medium and stuff like that? Give me a little peek into the first setup.
So I'll use all cocoa. Only one of our rooms now is on drip irrigation. So everything else is hand watered for now, but we're working towards that. I've always done all cocoa. So I go clone to solo to 1 to 3 gallon usually. And then in my hand water rooms, it's usually 5 gallon or 7 gallon cocoa pots. I do really like the hand water. I think the control on it is amazing, and I'm treating every plant one by one, regardless. I think when I first started growing, there's a huge push for automation and irrigation, and I feel like a lot of new growers like straight up went for that like really hard, and it's great. But I do think there is a learning lesson in the hand watering that every grower needs to experience. And I do think that teaching the hand watering down to the next person is easier, and you can still have just as good, if not better, quality control. So I've done both. I've done drip irrigation with Netafim drippers, Netafim sprayers for 3 gallon pots. And then I've done the 5s and the 7s and the 10s as a hand watering. And it's great to do both, but different setups, different purposes, I suppose. Well, how about you? Do you like to hand water?
Hell yeah, I'm still hand watering it. I again, like the individual care each plant gets. You know, it's just, I don't know. I love being here. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to rush my way through this, or, that's one task I'm not trying to delegate. Because I love being in the room. I think that's a good time to kind of judge the plant, see what kind of shape she's in, look for problems, you know, just it's a good way to keep things plugging away nice and healthy and on the right track to where like you're kind of saying there, you automate that and you're not there. You know what I mean? That's all the more time you're spending with the plant and letting little things kind of pop up. I totally agree. I absolutely 100% agree with what you said.
Do you use a set plant count per light, or is it different every round? Are you using the same type of size medium container?
I use the same size medium container. I go from solos to ones to ones to threes to tens. Uh, Same regimen, both in cocoa and soil. I try to shoot for quads, 4 plants under a light is always been the best recipe, kind of taught to me by my mentor, or one of my mentors, I guess I'd say, sub. And occasionally I do deviate from that. I like to see people grow larger plants. You know, everything in most states is based on numbers, and I'm not going to waste a large amount of numbers to fill in like a scrog or a sea of green. I'd rather waste my a little bit more time creating bigger plants. And sometimes, you know, you do get a couple of bigger plants in there. So sometimes I do take it down from 4 to 2 plants, you know what I mean, in the tens, if if they can take up that space. But ultimately I shoot for 4 under a light.
That's what I started with originally too, and I love that 4 light. Four, I usually do for my 5 gallons room. It's usually 4 to 6 5 gallons per light. But when I was messing around with the drippers, I would do a lot more plant count per light. And it's just a different style for me personally. It's just a less veg time, a quicker flip. That's all. But I still do like the lower plant count per light if you have the opportunity and space to do it, and if you're not in a production setup.
You know, I think the medium matters too, and like you're kind of pointing out there, you know, or pots. Some pots just are better off like in the auto drip. The smart pots that I run, you can see one big old bitch back there. That's an 18 back there, by the way. Uh, Something like that in a smaller pot, I feel would be better off in a drip system than a hand water, to be honest with you. Nice, you know. So I think whatever type, it depends a lot too on whatever pot you're using as well, not just medium, but pot type as well.
Are those smart pots aerated pots? Are they plastic?
Yeah, they're like tanks, basically. I got a small one right here. This is actually the half-gallon size of
Oh,
that
cool.
pot. So it's and they're supposed to basically from what double. So this is a half pot, half gallon. It's supposed to be equivalent to 1 gallon. Same, same all the way up. So
Those
actually,
look
that
great to
18 is
clean.
supposed to be. They're a pain in the ass to clean.
Oh, really?
Probably the only downfall. Yeah, well, I've come across, you know, as I've used them, these things. But this is another thing I'll say. This thing right here is probably 10, 12 years old, if not 15 years old now. So good reuse. But in the bigger pots, you know, it's and anymore. I just take them and there's a tub right behind me there under the bag. You know, fill that up with some water, soapy water, and scrub them with a brush, and then fill it back up and do a vinegar water rinse, dunk again. But yeah, these things compared to a nursery pot take a little bit extra time to wash. I'm not gonna lie, but they work well.
Yeah. So for my nursery pots, I use all 1 gallon regular black pots, and then those Floraflex tiny square green pots. And I do like the regular nursery pot a little better because it does have that depth where the Floraflex pots are very narrow, I've noticed. But
So in your flood and drain situation, though, you probably do like those square pots because you can get them in there a little bit more tighter.
Yeah, I've on the drip irrigation, I've only gone up to the threes because I just think 3 gallons per light is like kind of my number for drip irrigation. So I'll just kind of stay there in those green pots. I don't really like to water in flower in because the watering is so frequent in them. I do like a little give or a day or two. That's why the 7s and the 10 gallons are nice for me because, it's a water every day or every other day on the hand watering side of things.
Right on, right on. So what kind of lights, what kind of setups did you tell me and I missed that already here?
For the lights, I actually have a thing going with Science LED. I have a code with them. So if anyone wants to use code manifest, you can get fixed. I can set you up with some Science LED fixtures, or if anyone has questions on them. In all my rooms, I run the Raging Kush 2 from them. It's an amazing light. It's a 5x5 footprint light at 640 watts, and it has just an amazing even distribution. They don't get too hot too, which I really like. And they also have an app called the Thea app that you can use and adjust all the spectrums. You can do your lights on and lights off for there, so you don't need timers, which is pretty cool. It's all via Bluetooth. So I've really loved their lighting company. I've tested all my keeper cuts that I've run like 3 or 4 times now. I have tested under the Science and under a separate LED that I have in a different room, and I always pull better bag appeal out of the Science lights every time. I will say that, which is very, very cool to me because I've tested 3 or 4 strains on the different LED lighting with the same nutrients on very similar environments, and it's amazing to see the difference of expressions and the bag appeal on these new LEDs.
Is that what you started with?
No, I started
Was
with those
LED?
Yeah, I started with Amazon LEDs back in the day, $100 Amazon LEDs. And then I moved up to some HLGs, and then the Science really caught my eye early on.
No shame in starting out with them Amazon lights. I think a lot of people, have snagged some up at one point or another.
Yeah, I never had the HPS experience, so I haven't got to see that at all, really. I just went straight for the LEDs.
So what about newts? What kind of nutrients have you been using? What did you start out with?
I started off with just organic inputs and living soil, and then when I was trying to build the soil, and then I moved to cocoa, and I really like the cocoa a lot more because of how it could be fed and just the control of it. And so I do cocoa and salts now, and I use all crop salt now. But I did start with like Athena, and I've used Jack nutrients, but I really have stuck with crop salt because I've seen a better quality from that nutrient line than others. And they're pretty good people too. They always answer questions if you need anything. But crop salt is a full. They have a Veg A, a Veg B, and then a Bloom A, a Bloom B, and then a cake product as a flushing agent, which brings out some great bag appeal as well.
Yeah, I gave them a run. Not bad. Not bad nutrient regimen there. I definitely like the powders. as far as that goes, and the simplicity of it. I liked the way it mixed up nice and clear. To be honest, made me feel a little bit better about what I was feeding them. Not bad, not bad system.
Yeah, I've just stuck with them. I've liked it. I wanna do a bunch of different tests on real side by sides with different salt companies, but I have seen the better quality from crop salt so far. But even we went outside last summer too, and we got to do a bunch of different things. I even went straight into the ground with water, and we were just feeding teas and stuff. And then we were doing cocoa outside, living soil, pro mix outside. So trying to just test a lot and just get as many reps as I can with different mediums to learn as much as we can. But the cocoa and the salts are definitely my specialty.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you do operate in veg there. Do you let them grow kind of straight up? Do you do a bunch of topping? Tell me a little bit about your training there in veg.
For veg, I'm always topping, trying to spread these branches out, especially when I'm running a lower plant count. And then I always take my first layer of trellis and really try to bend and weave, and then let them recover for 4 or 5 days. And once I see every hole filled on that first trellis layer, and I like the coverage on it, then I know my plants are ready for flip. Is how I go about it. But for the veg situation, I'm
Oh man,
just going from the ones to the trying to just build the root zones as well as I can, from the solos to the ones to the threes, and then a pot from the threes to the big pots for my hand watering situations. How about you? Do you like to top a lot, or branch your, or do you use any tie down methods or anything like that?
oh man, I kind of whatever needs to be done. You know what I mean? So every strain's different. They have to be manipulated in different ways, and sometimes they just get out of control. I'm not afraid to bend one over and kind of manifold or whatever I have to do. Super crop. I do not like the scrog though. Uh, that's probably the only grow method. It's just intense. Yeah, but I may be more apt to try it if I were in like alleys. You know what I mean? I could walk along each side and do my maintenance daily. But for now, I'm running scrogs and these bending over and shit, deleafing, defoliating and shit like that. It's a backbreaker. And I'm not trying to fucking do any limbo maintenance under them things either these days. If they were up on tables a little bit more higher, open space, I think I may be open to it. But right now, not even an option here.
Yep, that's awesome. It's awesome. Trying to find this later.
So
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask you a little bit about your IPM. What do you guys do to keep things in check?
Now I'm on the Athena IPM program. Kind of just been rocking with that in my veg situation, and just dropping predators day one of flower in the flower rooms, making sure everything's ready for flip. And if we have any issues, addressing it right away. I always tell people, like, if you see anything, like, it's everyone needs to know, like, we're taking care of the situation. But we've dealt with things in the past and overcome them. I think it's just about having really sanitary guidelines and keeping clean clothes in the facility, and not changing your shoes, and just really staying on that spray twice a week and in veg situation, and then dropping those predators. I think a lot of people try to fix situations when they arise, and it's more about preventing them and just being ahead of them in cultivation. So that's what I've learned over these last couple years.
So you say you guys kind of talk keep in touch with the clientele, the people that are purchasing from you. What are they asking for? What are some of the stuff you guys have been running?
So we just dropped some rainbow runs and some dessert runs, and we got really good feedback from that. But one of our staples is the Mac 1 times Gary Payton. So like everyone kind of loves that strain. So people ask for that one a lot. So we kind of been running that pretty heavily. And the Boscotti too, got some really good reviews. For a lot of them, it's about looks, but we try to push like other bags that have better terpene profiles that aren't as appearing. So I think it's just educating the consumer on what's really available and to teach them to shop with your nose and your eyes. But a lot of like there are some hype stuff going around, especially the Macklin Gary is kind of our hype strain. And but then we also have older school stuff, like we were running some Platinum Dosi and some GMO, which like people really enjoy too. But I think it's just about the consumer. Like you got to know your consumer. And as a caregiver in this caregiver situation we have, like it's sometimes it's a one-on-one. So it's just a conversation and treating them like a patient and an A1 consumer, like, what do you want to smoke or what do you want to see from us? We always try to ask them. And I think that's really helped us stay ahead with the what the consumer really is asking for.
You guys work with your extracts as well?
Oh, what was that?
You guys make extracts as well? Work the extract market as well?
We just started doing solventless. So we just built our solventless lab, and we actually did some of our first washes. We just washed some GMO times red pop from Exotic Mike. We washed some of that rainbow runs, and then we also had some purple punch from the greenhouse that we just washed as well. So some of our first experiences with the solventless, but it's awesome. I mean, that's what we're kind of pushing towards more and more as we develop and within our cultivation setting. I really wanted to put an emphasis on the cultivation, just getting ahead of that and dialing that first before we really went with that solventless route. But now that we're there, we're pushing really hard towards that. And I enjoy the hash rosin a lot, so that's my favorite.
The old red pop. That's a strain that supposedly comes from my old backyard there, Flint, Michigan. Uh, multiple. It's funny. There's actually two guys that claim they bred that out of the same town, and both of them, man, you get them in the same room, they're willing to fight over that shit. But I've actually thought about getting them on one by one, but then I didn't want to. I don't want to feed. I don't want to feed the fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
can't
it
stir
is
the
a
pot
good
that
strain,
much.
right? Good strain nonetheless, though. In good conversation, if you get them individually, it is a good story each way. So,
What's the
yeah,
profile on the red pop? Because the strain I have is so GMO dominant.
yeah. Well, I've never even smoked it, to be honest with you. I got seeds of it, and the seeds that I got of it didn't even germinate. So yeah, I've never even had. I've talked to both guys, and yeah, no, never even smoked it. No. So couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you.
It was a beast of a plant though. That was one of the strongest looking plants I've grown. The GMO times red pop from Exotic Mike. What are some of your keepers or stuff you've had in the garden for a while?
Nothing stays here. I've always been a tester, and I never really have room to keep things. I've never really, felt that much of attraction. I keep them as much as I I care for them. You know, everything's in fads here. You know what I mean? There's always something good coming in. I can't get connected to any one. Space numbers are always key here. You know what I mean? Always in fear of going over numbers. So when something new comes, something's got to go. So it's all ever evolving here. I've never 9 pound hammer was probably my longest strain I kept for the most time. I held that for like 5 years. Anything other than that comes and goes. So yeah, I'm never really partial to anything. You know what I mean? As soon as I think this is the best as it gets, I pop something and I go, well, this is his best. This is better than that. You know what I mean? If you hold on to something, you'll never find that next thing. So I try not to, you know, clutch onto anything for too long. You know, I don't like to have what everybody's got. You know what I mean? I just
Yep.
think there's something to be said about walking into somewhere with a unique strain, something what everybody else isn't smoking, something that isn't hype, I guess. So
There's a lot to be said about that. Just having your uniqueness or having your staple strains but that's awesome. You're always flipping new flavors, it seems.
well, I've been shit testing for a very long time. So, yeah, too many to hold on to. Too many to hold on to. There's always something new. And I don't, I'm not trying to necessarily be known for that one either. So
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
I
not
think
business.
I think I'm just my goal is to just keep going through them and going through them, and I have a large enough nursery space to hold some genetics, so I think just keep going through them and finding those best ones is what's gonna help me stay keeping everybody happy, I suppose.
Oh, what is your plant count over there?
At one place it's 12, and then the other place it's a 96 plant count in Maine.
Nice.
So we're pushing well, but trying to get everything kind of centralized at one location so we can all have the team doing the same thing day to day. It's kind of my next goal.
So, as we kind of walk through the process there, you do anything special before you throw them into flower? Any 24 hours of darkness? You do any kind of prep before you throw them in there?
I don't like to do the darkness before flip, but I do an 11-13 hour schedule for flower the whole way through, which is if you Wolverine grown, I've kind of talked to him a while about this, and it's all about that pushing the proper ppfd and making sure everything's on point, and you can get away with that. So I think that's just the only thing different I do in flower would be the 11-13, but no 2-day
Have
dark,
you?
nothing like that.
No. I actually find that I run a 24-hour veg, and I have found that taking them from that 24-hour veg and just flipping them into my flower cycle, just that in itself increases the onset of flower quite a bit, almost within speeds it up a week. Yeah,
So you're seeing better bud site development early on from that as a 24-hour veg.
quicker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing them like start to pop up around week 3, I'm seeing them earlier, more around week 2 start to start.
Awesome. That's very
Less
cool.
stretch as well. So do you, since you're running the science there, are you utilizing any of the strain recipes, or do you use it like that?
Yeah, so they have their veg and their flour formulas, and then you can also make your own recipes. So I've tried a bunch of different stuff, but I usually stick with their recipes and implement a 30-minute red at the end of the day. And I work shout out to Sergeant Pepper too. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's a science guy and just amazing dude. And he's kind of helped me get dialed in with all the recipes. And I know if you guys have any spectrum questions, he's kind of the guy to go to. But I'm mostly just using their set recipes because they're as good as they come. I trust them. I trust them.
Old Mr. Pepper, he is a good dude right there. You can find him in a lot of the earlier episodes of the show there. But definitely a good dude, man. Knowledgeable cat. So what about flour? Anything in flour? Tell me a little bit about your process in flour. Are you a heavy defoliator? What do you do in flour?
Yeah, just I definitely like a heavier defoliation. I think it just creates better airflow and just gets getting leaf out of the room is great, just to lower humidity. I just think I'm really about the defoliation and turning those lower nodes, allowing them to get more PPFD penetration and bulk up earlier, I think is really huge. And just that's it for really defoliation. But in my flower rooms, I'm really big about running a lot of flavors, which is why I do prefer the hand water too, because it just works better that way. And I think that's kind of my focus too, because when I harvest, I only have 2 rooms, so when I harvest, I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to have 1 or 2 flavors. So every room I do try to throw like 7 or 8 flavors in and really keep the variety available.
I'm trying to somebody in chat's here asking how long do you push your plants? But I'm trying to figure what he means there.
For
So
like
how
days
far?
flower.
I'm guessing.
It's that's strain specific, obviously, but I think like GMO, I'm pulling like 82, 83, 82 to like 86 days. Usually like Mac Gary, for example, I could pull that strain at like 64 days from the flip. So that's kind of a quicker flip, but a lot like I said, I'm running a lot of different strains in these rooms too. So as long as I'm not running a strain like GMO, it's usually around that 70 to 72 day chop.
What's your guys' drying process like over there?
So at chop, we like to have the medium dryer, just to make it easier for harvest and take the lighter root balls out the room. And I don't like a lot of moisture in the stalk at harvest too. Like taking a pot, I think there's something to be said for chopping a pot down soaking wet. It's just an uneven. I want an even drying process too. And then I do dry in my flower room, so I'll hang on the lights, or I have fishing line on in one room that goes across the room and it connects on the side. And I usually cut the plant into 3 or 4 sections, and I'm doing a 12 to 14 day dry, and then into totes. Those totes get burped. Those totes are getting burped once or twice a day for 3 to 5 days, and then we'll start trimming.
Right on. I do not like the dry trim myself, but man, in the larger scale, I just don't see any other way around it.
Yeah, I think that's why we're trying to push more solventless too. We really like harvesting for live rosin. We've done it a couple times, and it's just a more efficient process. And just it's who doesn't love smoking hash after a great harvest, right?
Right on. So do you think that will start to dictate the strain selection a little bit as the extraction side of things take off? Do you think a little less is this what you guys want? A little more of this is what switches best.
I think we still got to keep some of our flower strains around to keep some people happy, but we're definitely going to try to find some strains that make more sense to fresh frozen, especially with whole plant fresh frozen. Live rosin is kind of our focus. Like we love smoking on that. So yeah, it's kind of a hunt for those type of strains that make sense with resin content to yield. So I guess we'll just keep pushing for those and keep the flower that people love around as well.
As far as like getting rid of product there, are you able to deal with the general public or patients, or do you have to drop at positioning centers? How does that process work over there?
So there's a great community, and pretty much all of the above if you have the connections, but a lot of it is patients or med card holders. So I think that's kind of what we have been dealing the most with, and that's what we prefer too. The one-on-one is great. It's nice to shake somebody's hand and give them some flower you grew. I think that's gonna be a lost art in the time to come.
I miss the backpack days. So as the market progresses, though, yeah, fucking but as the market progresses over there, how do you again, I kind of goes back to what we were talking about as far as quality and delegating that shit. Are you afraid at some point as things scale up, are you worried about product packaging and shit like that, the middleman and all that? I mean, that's one of the things that kind of slowed my intent down in the market there, is having to deal with A to B, the processor and all that. And here in Michigan, basically, we have to at some point as caregivers turn it over to the processors, and then they package and whatever. And at that point, I'm worried about how long my product's sitting on shelves, how long it's been, opened up and just laying on a table before packaging and shit like that. Is that a concern that you may have, or how does that work there? Or
yeah, I think
about all the above?
Branding is our brand is kind of everything to us, so we try to stay away from the white labeling as much as we can. A lot of people will ask, and we're a small batch company, so we're not really producing a large amount. So I think that is kind of like helped us stay away from just being a producer, because I do see a lot of growers who start to become a producer for someone else when they could have their own identity or brand but you are right, like how long is it sitting on the shelf for? What are the temperature and humidity at that it's been stored at? Like how long is it going to take to get to the consumer? And that's why having people with these med cards is nice, because we can set them up to get it to them as fresh as possible. And that's everything to me, is like getting cannabis fresh to people, not really dry, not brittle, not sitting out in a hot trunk for 2 days. Like I just think that's everything.
Right on. Yeah, I don't like my powdery cannabis myself, and I kind of operate the same way. I run a perpetual for the same reasons. I like a fresher cannabis to my patients. I prefer a fresher cannabis. Yeah. So hell yeah.
Yeah, I think people aren't really used to it too when you hand them really fresh weed, really fresh sticky weed. So it's always a nice review back. And those terpenes are fading, being stored as well. So that's something to be said for.
So do you ever plan to maybe scale out to the edible market?
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to work on some rosin edible lines in the near coming future. I think that will be a very cool focus for us, and I think we're gonna come out with some cool packaging and branding that will be very attractive to the people. So, but definitely trying to do some chocolate bars or gumdrops in the near future.
Oh yeah. Uh, so do you see yourself ever scaling up and losing kind of the craft side of things? As somebody that says how much they hand watering, again, we're talking about again scalability, kind of worried about losing that, run things out of control. So you ever see stepping up for that bigger market?
I'd be happy with a small crew and just really keeping the quality in check. I mean, quality is kind of the focus here, and that's what that's what we started being about, and that's what we're gonna continue to be about. We grow for ourselves too. We smoke all the strains. We're testing all of them. We're getting reviews from ourselves first in our tight circle. So I think I don't think I want to scale up as much as I can contain the quality. That's the scale I'll keep it at.
So, kind of as a younger grower, and again, I'm not scoffing, I'm nothing. Hey, are you? Would you say you're locked in your way? Are you still open to possibly soil and organics and that type of shit at some point, even maybe at a personal level, or do you think it is get scalable?
Yeah, I thought the cocoa was more scalable for me at front. That's why I kind of chose it. But I'm trying to learn as much as I can every day about a cultivation, and I need to learn more about living soil and organic approaches because that's what I want to focus on as well. Um, but I would do if I was going to do more living soil, I would do smaller, very smaller rooms of it and just do small batch drops of a living soil room just to kind of test it and see how I like it before I bring it to a larger scale because I'm more used to the cocoa at larger scale.
We're always limited in our growth for one reason or another. You know what I mean? Size, plant count, cash. If you could change any one thing immediately in your grow, you know what I mean? What would it be? What would be the first thing that you'd step up in the room?
In relation to just rules or just equipment or what do you mean?
Anything, anything. You
Anything.
know what I mean? Yeah. If you
Um,
had the cash, I mean, anything isn't an option. You know what I mean? But what would be that one thing that you think you'd change right now that you think would be that one thing that would really step up the game for it?
I think on my next grow room, the biggest thing that I'm going to change is just having uh, better walls. I would love walls that I could spray down with a pressure washer after each run. Where right now we just have drywall in the room. So I think that's the next big focus for me. If I could improve anything in the room, it'd be boards on the walls where I can spray on them every run and clean the room, and maybe a drain in the middle of the floor. I think that's a great, I think not a lot of people think about that, and pitching your rooms down to that drain. So those are the two things.
Pretty commendable there. I like the idea, man. I like clean shit, man. I'm really big about washing things in the in-betweens. And so I like the idea there. I can tell you this, as growers, we live and learn, we grow as we grow. You know what I mean? I never seen this shit coming. Never seen this shit coming. And I didn't unlock until like a month ago. Okay. One grower to another, just because you talk about having the drain. Never even fucking considered it. Never even thought of it. Never even thought of it. But I have grown in this here space now for 6 years. First few years I grew in this room because I work out in this room. I spend a lot of time in this room. I just know that concrete in general, walking around, can fucking create fatigue on your back. So I had fatigue mat over all this area and which covered my 12-inch floor drain behind me. Okay. Never even thought about it. Things beautiful. And again, things never really spiraled out of control here. Let's keep that in mind. But as time progressed, I took up the floor for one reason or another, exposing that floor drain. And what I come to find out, that floor drain was off gassing and affected my terps. That pine terp that I've been telling you I've been trying to chase now, almost coincidingly, as I decided to go down that road, I had pulled up the floor and I had strains sent to me from all across the country. All pine, pine. Because of the gas, whatever gas was coming out of that floor drain that I couldn't hit with my nose, it wasn't pungent, suppressed that pine so greatly it never came out. It was, and again, we still joke about this, whatever, but it's very true. It's very true. What came out here was more of like a dragon fruit or a berry, woodsy berry, but never that pine because of the off gassing of the floor drain. So if you do some kind of floor drain, it might be wise to cover that fucker, between cleanings or whatever. You know what I mean? So that isn't a factor at some point, because again, you never know, unless I never would have. And again, I think at some point, since I've learned that, I think that could be a thing. I know I've seen in chat they say you can do like a curing. You know what I mean? Where you kind of put in certain gases, lock the room, and you know what I mean, go like a cure there. But I think that could be more of a thing. We're already dumping, CO2 into the room. But I think as we could figure out what certain gases offer as pressures to the plant, we could dial in higher terp amounts. You know what I mean? Or create a, dial it in one way or another. But I would have never guessed that. You know what I mean? But that's my experience with the floor drain in the room. And I say that because, man, I love the idea, man. My perfect grow room in my head would be kind of like a warehouse where everything was on tables and you had like a central room. You pulled everything out and did your hand watering, your inspections, shove that shit in, close that overhead door, go to the next room. But again, at the end of flower, be able to go in there and fucking just go to town, wipe them walls down, mop that floor. You know what I mean? I think I like the whole idea there. So hell yeah. And You're on point. I like you, kid. I like you, kid. Just kidding, man. Hopefully you don't take that into offense, man.
No, not at all. I appreciate it. But yeah, the sanitation I think should be a bigger focus on my next room design. I think that would be my biggest thing. Building the room as a more lab grade and to be cleaned better every run.
It's the biggest preventative right there, I think. As you kind of mentioned earlier when we talked about IPM, I think cleanliness is the key to it all.
Yes, sir, 100%. And I even want to make these guys wear suits sometimes, but they're like, "No, let's just wear these t-shirts."
So is there some stuff that you're sitting on? What's the next drop in the garden or the next introduction to the garden?
For strain wise,
Yeah.
So our next one.
Give us some insight.
So, like I said, we like to run a lot of strains. So our next drop will have a little bit of rainbow runts and dessert runts from Exotic Mike, as well as I have this strain called Temple of the Dog that is like one of our staples too. It's from Ethos Genetics. It's hunted by one of the OGs out here, and it's just like a super berry menthol type of smoke. So it's very unique terpene. So I always run that one, as well as Mel's Punch. Shout out to Sergeant Pepper for the gift of Mel's Punch. It's like a blackberry kush type of profile. And then the Boscotti and the Macklin Gary, as always, our staple. The people love the Macklin Gary.
Do you have a in particular favorite breeder there?
I've seen some really standout stuff from Soulfire Gardens. I think he has some great stuff. I think Ethos Genetics has amazing terp profiles. I've only gotten some of the best candy, fruit, or a lot of those profiles come from him. So I think his always stand out in my garden as appearance to like just with the terpenes, they're always standing out in his genetics. And then other breeders, I've worked with the exotic Mikes. I've seen a lot of some of his strawberries and cream was a strain that I really fell in love with early on. And then I have the milk and cookies, which is a triple OG times mint chocolate chip from Exotic Mike. And that's like a really pungent smell too, which is kind of a different one. So, but mostly just those three: Soulfire, Exotic, and Ethos. And now we're running some Relentless Genetics, a little bit of Masonic, and then some small circle local cuts as well too.
Man, that Ethos, anything that I've run from the Ethos there has been very vigorous, man. Talk about a quick flip, man. You can flip that shit, fucking flip tall. You're gonna end up with a plant if you're just gonna let it go, 5-6 feet tall. It seems they're definitely, in my opinion, that if you need something for a Scrogger, Ethos. That vigorous shit's good Scroggin strain right there.
Yeah, I do see a lot of vigor from his strain specifically, especially the Temple of the Dog I have. It's like you could flip it 2 feet tall, and by the end of flower, she's a beast. What are some of your favorite breeders, or if you could suggest any other breeders that we should be trying to hunt or look for to add to our collection?
There's so many great ones right now. I've always been, of course, partial to TGA. That's no not hiding nothing there. Been a tester, good friend for him for years. But I enjoy a lot of great breeders. I'm not gonna say any one these days because of what I do now. You know what I mean? Uh, I don't want to create any hard feelings with any breeders that may come on, but there are a lot of great ones out, man, these days. Just do your research, man. There is a lot of pollen chuckers out there. Anybody that's willing to, do a little bit of one-on-one with you about their strains, and has a little bit of track record, I would. But
it's great having the community too, because you can see some of those strains these people or these cuts these people are running, and I know I have a great group of growers and that always are trying to help each other out with different genetics and different cuts. So I'm blessed in that manner as well.
I come up in a little different era there. All my friends are like either I was like, well, all my experience, a lot of my experience are people that are doing shit now. You know what I mean? I ran with Sub there for a long time. Med Grower One's a good friend of mine. Of course, he's running with the breeding now. And the Ocean Grown Boys, a lot of people I know and tested for them as well. Mr. Tight, who I'm still testing for. Uh, so, again, I got locked in with a lot of that throughout my grow history. I've been real blessed about good people throwing me some fire. So I don't tend to pull one out, man. You know what I mean? It's people are really free with genetics these days. You know what I mean? As far as how they flow and shit like that, man. So yeah, I got a lot of good friends, a lot of good strains. And it continues to happen to this day, man. I don't have to choose. I'm behind. I'm behind, my friend. I'm behind. Way behind. I bet you there's a few I know in chat right now going, drop them beans, bitch.
Yeah.
You're behind. Yeah.
If there are any people in chat, I'm definitely interested in running some new beans or testing some stuff out. I mean, so let's see who has the fire, right? That's what I'm about.
There's most definitely a lot of them out there. A lot of fire breeders out there.
So when you say you don't like to run what everyone else runs, what is that what everyone else is running? What strains are those to you?
To me, whatever you fucking is at the dispo.
Yeah.
Basically, whatever's at the dispo. Even now, man, it's I'm doing this and we're getting more and more people hanging out and contributing to what we call the weed nerd world there. I don't know if you've watched the show or seen how the things work around here, but we're trying to build a little bit of a community. And that's something I don't like to use the word preach, but I suggest, these days, instead of, trying to everybody chase that hype strain or grow the same shit, you know what I mean? To branch out, you know what I mean? And well, basically what I'm hoping for is, people in the community will figure out where the fuck everybody's at. It's a small world, man. This Zoom thing is making it an even smaller world and a great opportunity for networking. So what I'm kind of like Mark Leafly Hill, partial inspiration there for sure. It's like try to get a monthly gathering. Not even they don't even have to be at events, just like smoke events or something like that, to where if you wanted new genetics, they can pass clones like that. But open the library up, man. Right now, what is there? At least five. And I think I'd be generous to say, or not even generous. I'd be on the low side to say there's what 5,000 strains out there right now. Almost a impossible number for any one of us to go through. So yeah, everybody, open the library up in your community there and try to find some new shit. That next big thing. Open up the flavor market, not necessarily bottleneck it down
Mhm.
into the hype strains. I'm scared that's what I'm most afraid of is things being bottlenecked down, and even more so as legalization comes into play in big money. I think they're gonna have no interest into R&D. You know what I mean? Trying to find that next hype strain. They're gonna narrow it down. Oh, this is what they'd like. Run this shit, run this shit, run this shit. And I think that's when it comes down to that, I think medical cannabis, which is my passionate side of things, I have, if you make your money off of recreational cannabis, hey, power to you. My passion is on the medicine side of things. And I think once legalization goes through and they bottleneck it down to, the few strains they want to run, I think we're going to be right back to square one on medical cannabis, where you're walking out of the doctor and you're winning cookies. Cookies is my medicine. You know what I mean? And it's not going to be because cookies is your medicine. It's because that's what your fucking doctor, your caregiver, your whatever is being leaning towards because that's what's hype and they want to sell it. You know what I mean? I, so, I'd like to see what's being grown, that widen instead of bottleneck down and hypey strings and shit like that. So
Yeah, and that's what I do notice with a lot of these newer strains is the sour diesel or the GMO has way better, or the super silver haze has way better medicinal benefits than what these flashy bags or hype strains are creating. So I think as the cultivator, it's our job to kind of provide an array of both and educate the consumers. And then I have noticed that people go back to those strains and they stay on them and they find out that, for me, I love smoking GMO. That's what I know. That it's a heavy smoker for me. It gets me medicated, and like that's something that I just want to keep going. And although that is a large producer for a lot of people, I think it's a very medicinal strain. But I think you're right. And what we're starting to see is a lot of people are running the same stuff, and it loses that craft of things when you can have a lot of flavors or a lot of different varieties of, and going the more medicinal route with the approach. And that's why I love the one-on-one to the consumer, because then you really can get a feel of what they're after, if they're after it medicinally or recreationally, and how, and I always try to take care of those people who are after it medicinally first, and those we refer to as our patients, obviously. So
I kind of miss the days where you guys, I envy, I don't know, I envy these newer states as they come on and they go through the cowboy days. Uh, I love those days just for so many reasons. So many reasons. I miss the cowboy days here in Michigan, but one of the things I miss the most is kind of what I'm saying there, though. Back when the market was new, the caregivers still had a great input in what was going on. When you went to these dispos, they were back then, uh, you went to a table or a cabinet that had fucking 30 flavors in there. You know what I mean? If they were a good dispo anyway, they had, and with that, it's more of a medicine there. You know what I mean? More opportunity for the patient, it to be more of a medicine for the patient. You know what I mean? Because even at that point, numbers were testing where we were looking for numbers and we weren't looking for numbers. But it was more by eye that looks good, and moreover, oh yeah, that's it. You know what I mean? It isn't just what they high numbers, this is what's selling, you know what I mean? I think it for medicine, we need that. We need that variety. We've known for years. That's why it's not necessarily prescription, or they haven't sunk their teeth in it, because the recipe isn't the same for every person. You know what I mean? We need to continue to unlock the varieties so it maintains its medicine side of things. You know what I mean? You can find that one that works for it eventually, hopefully. I don't know.
Yeah, and it takes a while for people to expand their palates and actually understand what they're smoking too. So I think there's something to be said for bridging the gap on the education to the consumer, because I think us as growers don't realize how much we really know about these genetics and the type of different strains that are available in the market compared to the average consumer. It's kind of a hit in the face too when you see a menu with 10, 15 strains. You're kind of like, oh, what would I even get for myself, or what's the best one for me?
Do you ever plan to is that on the menu right now? Ever see yourself doing any breeding?
Any breeding? I don't see myself ever doing any breeding. I think there's so many great people to work with, and I just don't. That's not my focus right now. But I never know. I'm young. I'll see where it goes. You never know. But and I
You
don't know
know,
much about the breeding aspect yet. Yeah, I haven't really dove in yet to that.
I dig that. I really kind of suggest everybody to not rush through the processes, the different ways to grow and shit like that, to kind of take your time, keep it fresh for yourself, keep invigorating yourself with new things. I kind of appreciate the fact that you started in cocoa. That leaves you a lot of room later on for the soil and microbe and all that. That's quite the deep rabbit hole right there. So I don't know. I'd hate to see you get lost in that in the beginning and never do your days in the salts, in the cocoa and shit. So.
And there's always that argument of which is better too. So I would love to do side by sides of same cultivars that I've run for a while and really, taste them side by side and see what is actually the best, right? The salts versus organic world.
So we pretty much went through most of the process. I guess, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Still hand watering? Do you see yourself more on being that part of things, or do you see yourself more as a team leader, running around trying to take care of the branding, the sales, all that shit?
Yeah, as we grow, I see myself kind of taking care of the operations more, but I still am in the gardens every single day right now. But in 10 years from now, I have no idea. Hopefully I'll have a strong enough team to where I can be as versatile as possible for the brand. But 10 years is a while from now. I don't know. I would love a little farm too. I think pushing more like vegetables and fruits and just like being more sustainable on ourselves is a big push for us as well. So That's why I do want to dive into the organics and living soil so we can have more stuff like that. But I think I'm more purposeful being versatile with the team I have because they take care of everything. They're good. They crush.
Let me so do you see yourself staying where you are, or do you see yourself expanding into other states, or even just up ship and taking off and chasing
Yeah,
another market?
I see ourselves eventually just reestablishing in a new location in the next couple of years. But for now, we're just gonna make the best of what we got and just continue to push that.
I asked that question because sometimes because of legislation or whatever, it may change the dream. Sometimes, man, because of legalization in your state, man, I've considered it at some points. Fuck this, man. Oklahoma looks pretty good. Oklahoma still looks pretty good, by the way. But so you would
Yeah,
then, if need be, you'd pull up the plants and head to wherever you could keep the dream alive to, huh?
yeah, wherever the dream takes you, right? Like I try to study every market and talk to growers in each market to really know what's going on. So I think I'll take it wherever it has to go. That's kind of my approach to it. And right now it's nice because we're versatile to do that and start over if we needed to. Because you're right, with every state to state legislation and rules, there's a lot of roadblocks that you can run into where other states have more freedom opportunities.
Well, I think we've covered most of what we can cover there. You want to give any shout outs, any thank yous, any of that? Any shout outs to the team members? Very important, man. You gotta give a little credit where credit is due, my friend.
Yes. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. So you guys can follow me at manifest.gardens, and shout out to manifest.farmer, Cash Cartman. Shout out to Science LED and Sergeant Pepper. They've helped me a lot too. And just shout out to the local community for always supporting. I really appreciate it. Like we're nothing without the support of the community. So we're always trying to give back and do as much as we can for it. But I appreciate you having me on the show, and it was nice chatting with you, man. Appreciate it.
So I don't know if you've watched the channel or what goes on here, but starting now, basically, you've done your time. That invitation that I sent you will be good for what we call the Weed Nerd World. Weed Nerd World is only open to past guests. No invitation needed. It's a come as you want to basis. If you want to hang out, talk about whatever we're talking about, you just want to pop on, hang out, it's all good. We talk about a wide variety of shit in the Weed Nerd World, that's for sure. But from this forth on, you're a welcome member. Keep that Zoom invitation aside, and whenever you want to pop in, as long as it says Weed Nerd World in the title, you're more than welcome. So basically, that's how it works. Monday nights is a mandatory Weed Nerd World night, so you can bank on that. You know what I mean? If you ever think, yeah, oh, man, play Mondays, you can plan that. It's always Weed Nerd World night. Any other night, it just kind of depends on how the guest goes. If we don't go to the 420 mark, then I pick up again with Weed Nerd World. So even starting tonight, man, you want to go empty, as I'd say, empty your bladder, fill your tray. You're more than welcome to come pop back on in the Weed Nerd World and hang out for the rest of the evening. But that's how things work. And I'd like to see, new breath, new blood, new input. You know what I mean? It's the way things work. It's how the way knowledge gets spread, open source learning. You know what I mean? So hell yeah. hopefully you take me up on that. The other thing I'd like to get from you, my friend, before you go is a silly thing I call the soundbite. And basically my version of it is, hey, this is Eagle and I'm on fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode 603. You can change it. You can put whatever you want before or after that, as long as that's in it. This will be a commercial for your episode at some point. I am ready.
Hey, this is Manifest, and I'm on Talking Shit with Eagle. Thank you guys for having me.
Hell yeah. Well, my friend, like I said, I do look forward to seeing you more in the weed nerd world. Feel free to come and go as you please. If I don't see you anytime soon, man, I wish you the best of luck, man. I hope all your dreams do manifest, my friend. And I sincerely mean that, man. I like to see everybody succeed. And I do. I really enjoy the name, man. I really do hope all your shit comes to fruition. I got terrible cotton mouth. But I do wish you the best, my friend, in all your endeavors. So, with that being said, one last time, you got anybody you want to shout out before you go?
Shout out the team.
IGs
and shout out the culture. Shout out Science. Shout out Sergeant Pepper. That's it, really. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. God bless Eagle Gardens. Peace out, guys.
Oh yeah. With that being said, guys, if you hopefully know the deal, empty your bladders, fill your trays. We will be firing up the weed nerd world here in a minute. If not, thank you guys for your time. Hopefully you guys know the deal. Random acts of kindness do save lives. So easy to do. With that being said, I will see you guys in a few